So you have to do everything to be in a more anti-inflammatory state. And for girls, just changing their diet, their exercise, and of course, doing everything you can to reduce exposures and intake to environmental pollution, toxicants, these chemicals that are really interfering with our endocrine system and our immune system and make more pro-inflammatory situations in our body. So we need to do it all. I mean, this is why the conventional doctors just throw birth control pills at all these teens. But that's not fixing the underlying issues at all. So when a girl has, I'll say girl, but because I'm older, but young woman has a terrible period, whether it's extremely heavy, whether it's really painful, and also if she has PMS, because that is also a dysregulation of the autonomic nervous system. That's why they can all be in one person. Okay. And when you have these problems, the solution, in my opinion, is not to get rid of your ovarian function. Shut
Right.
down the ovaries, because that's what birth control pills, they get your ovaries to do nothing. They just shut it down altogether. So your ovaries are like offline completely. They're doing nothing. And then you get these chemical endocrine disruptors, because sad to say, and I'm like the ultimate female feminist here, because I want women to control their reproductive destinies. I don't want women to have babies when they don't want them. But we do have to be honest about what birth control pills are. They are chemical endocrine disruptors. And they're officially that. They're not, I didn't make that up. They are listed in the government's website, toxicology.gov, as endocrine disruptors. And that's their goal, to disrupt your endocrine system so your ovaries don't work. Okay. But that's not fixing the fact that you still have inflammation, that you have dysregulation of your autonomic nervous system. You're just like hiding the problem, like the old proverbial sweeping the dirt under the rug. It's
Right.
still there. It's like you have a problem, and you're not addressing the root cause of anything. You're not really helping the long-term fertility and health status of these young women, because the menstrual cycle, and this is actually acknowledged by the American College of OBGYN, who I disagree with almost all the time, but I do agree with them in this case. They have actually officially come out and said the menstrual cycle is a vital sign of
Mhm.
health. What is that? A vital sign. Like your blood pressure, your pulse, your temperature, it's a vital sign. If the menstrual cycle is not working properly, then something is wrong. Let's
Right.
take it for something is wrong. And it's not just some randomness that's happening. Something in that female body is actually wrong, dysfunctional. Something is absolutely not working right. And it's not working right for reasons. We need to address those reasons. And but then, they go on, well, give birth control pills. That's addressing the symptom. And I'm not against treating symptoms, but I am against treating symptoms if that's all you treat, and you're not dealing with the underlying issue. And there are ways to treat the symptoms, like I mentioned a few, and for PMS, where you have the emotional issues, the breast tenderness, in that case, it's some of the natural things, in addition to like magnesium, B6. Now, why would B6 be useful? Okay, so B6 actually sets the function of hormone receptors. You want your estrogen and progesterone to work right? Well, their receptors have to work properly.
Right.
They will not if you don't have adequate B6. So it's all getting back to root causes. You need to have your hormones working properly. You can't just have hormones, they also have to work on their receptors properly. And B6 is critical for that. And then they always talk about, well, have high, like complex carbs. Well, what the heck is that about? Well, because complex carbs, which you should have all the time, we're not talking about processed carbs. That's what we have to say. Carbs like from root vegetables, from ancient grains, like the organic ancient grains, from fruits and other vegetables, nuts and seeds, these. So you need to have the fibers from these well, we'll say, the healthy carbs. You hate to have to distinguish that. We always have to say healthy fats, healthy carbs, unhealthy carbs, right? So, because from them you get the proper food for your gut microbes, so your microbiome is going to be right. And then also, these are some of the building blocks for making some of our neurotransmitters, which are also very key. Obviously, you need to have proper neurotransmitters to have good mental health, right? So we want to make sure we have adequate serotonin and so on. So eating the right foods, having a few nutrient supplements, and one of the herbal types is like oil of evening primrose, which is actually an anti-inflammatory product from omega-6. Omega-6 is not evil. I mean, some people, oh, never have. Omega-6 is vital, okay? It's part of our essential fatty acids. It's just that if you have rancid oils, then you're going to have only pro-inflammatory omega-6 products, right? And we want pro-inflammatory for when we need them. I mean, you cannot have a successful labor or a successful period if you have no pro-inflammatory prostaglandins, which are the derivatives of omega-6. But then you have the anti-inflammatory ones like oil of evening primrose, which can really be helpful. And some people use Vitex, also known as chaste tree, right? So chaste tree, we don't even fully know all the mechanisms, but one theory is that it can lower prolactin and increase progesterone production. So, maybe it's all involved in some of, once again, our hormone modulation. But, and then anything that you do that increases vagal tone. So that would be like breath work, different forms of meditation, massage, acupuncture, laughter yoga. Laughing is great. Cold plunges, which is not my personal favorite, but it's more, it can be helpful. Actually, guys do better with cold plunges than girls. So, but some people promote it. But saunas are good, and then you can do a little cold plunge after that. And also things like vagus nerve stimulators, all these things can be really wonderful. Some of the adrenal adaptogen herbals like ashwagandha, um, L-theanine, skullcap, Chinese skullcap. There's Shishandra. There's a lot of adrenal adaptogens, calming agents, lemon balm, passion flower, and so on. That can all be very calming, very good. And the other thing that has been shown to increase the vagus nerve tone is, and this is not for like really, really young teens, but a little bit older ones, like 18 and up, would be fasting during the luteal phase. It's interesting. They actually have published data showing that when you fast during the luteal phase, you actually increase parasympathetic tone. So, but, and the minimum, it would be 2 days of water fasting or fasting mimicking diet. That's not for everyone, but there is actually published data on that. So thought I'd throw that out, but it's a lot easier, of course, for people who are not into that to get a vagus nerve stimulator or just laugh a lot, tell jokes, and do saunas and massages and so on. Massage is one of my personal favorites. I could always use one of those.